There is a location in the waters with a particularly ominous reputation. Christopher Columbus's expedition encountered a situation in the far-off 15th century that sent the entire crew to worry. There are reports of the sea glowing strangely, of the compass needle going crazy, and of enormous spurts of flame coming out of nowhere in the Great Discoverer Ship Journal. Many years later, this grave sight once again demonstrated its terrible nature. Here, ships vanish into thin air. They can occasionally be discovered drifting, empty, and utterly desolate. However, we don't even find wrecks most of the time. However, it's not just ships that disappear. Even planes vanish. Even whole military aircraft units. Rumors and facts concerning these amazing occurrences have circulated swiftly all throughout the world. This area of the Atlantic quickly gained a reputation for being evil, and it still maintains its spooky image to this day. You guessed it already. The Bermuda Triangle is this. What magical force lies beneath its surface? What is the scientific consensus on all of this? The Triangle of Bermuda. Let's start by recapping the most significant events that led to the Bermuda Triangle's tragic and noisy notoriety. On January 31st, 1880, the training sailing ship HMS Atalanta sailed from the Royal Navy dockyard in Bermuda to Falmouth, England. The British Isles were not reached by the ship. It's not even out of Bermuda yet. It just vanished into thin air. It was believed that the crew lacked the necessary knowledge to deal with the circumstance, and that the ship sank after running into a strong storm while traveling. The entire world was curious to know what had happened to the ship at that moment. Concerned friends and family members called the Admiralty personally and sent over 150 telegrams after the ship vanished. The people demanded an explanation when the missing ship made news. Numerous credible explanations were generated, but neither the wreckage nor the remains of the deceased, much less survivors, were discovered. The disappearance of HMS Atalanta is still unknown. On March 4, 1918, the coal transport Cyclops sailed from Barbados carrying manganese ore aboard. A few days later, it and its crew of 309 vanished into thin air. The greatest number of non-battle casualties in U.S. Navy history can be attributed to this occurrence. There are a lot of theories on why the USS Cyclops went down. A powerful storm is blamed by some, overload and structural damage from cargo are blamed by others, and an attack by the Imperial German Navy is even suggested by some. However, the fact remains that the ship vanished into thin air in the region of the ocean that came to be known as the Bermuda Triangle. The Carroll A. Deering is a 1919 commercial schooner with 5 masts. The Coast Guard found it on Diamond Shoals, close to Cape Hatteras, North Carolina, on January 31, 1921. The Coast Guard was prepared to help those in need when the ship ran aground. However, it turned out that nobody needed to be saved. The ship was deserted. No crew, no travelers. Unfortunately, there were no results from additional searches for the missing individuals. As usual, a variety of theories have been put out to explain this tragedy, ranging from a pirate attack to the team's own strange departure. Flight 19. Among the most well-known and dramatic events was this one. Additionally, it involved a large number of aircraft rather than a ship, which prompted scientists to develop an increasing number of paranormal theories to explain the Bermuda Triangle. The purpose of Flight 19 was to train 5 TBM Avenger torpedo bombers. The squadron's flight plan called for them to travel 141 miles east of Fort Lauderdale, followed by 73 miles north, and then return 140 miles later to finish the training. The plane never made it back to the base. On December 5, 1945, the entire squadron vanished over the Atlantic. Additionally, a second rescue attempt involving PNM Mariner seaplanes also resulted in casualties and a disaster. Along with a crew of 13, one of the seamen vanished in the same region. Flight 19 was merely the initial event in a series of comparable aircraft mishaps. Aircraft will continue to vanish in this region in the future. Star Tiger, an Avro Tudor IV passenger jet, vanished on January 30, 1948, while en route to Bermuda from the Azores. On January 17, 1949, nearly a year later, another aircraft went missing while en route from Bermuda to Kingston, Jamaica. Additionally, it was an Avro Tudor 4, which was also known by the name Star Ariel. The wicked triangles seem to favor these specific models. Douglas DC-3, NC-16002 disappeared on a trip from San Juan, Puerto Rico to Miami on December 28, 1948. There was no sign of the plane or the 32 passengers on board. According to the Civil Aviation Board's investigation, there was insufficient data to identify the cause of its disappearance. The pleasure yacht Canamera 4 was discovered drifting in the Atlantic south of Bermuda on September 26, 1955. There were no passengers or crew on the ship. The individuals were never located. The fact that the boat was still intact appeared odd, and it's doubtful that the crew would have willingly abandoned it if they hadn't been in imminent danger of drowning. And planes once more. 300 miles, 480 kilometers west of Bermuda on August 28, 1963. Two U.S. Air Force KC-135 stratotankers collided and plunged into the Atlantic. This place is free of mystery. They did, in fact, collide. Things like this do occur. Once more, though, why in the Bermuda Triangle? It is impossible to avoid the thought that things are more difficult to explain than they may appear. You might assume that all of this occurred a long time ago based on the dates. However, that isn't true. The subsequent episode occurred not long ago. A day after it was scheduled to arrive in Lake Worth after crossing the Gulf Stream from the Bahamas, the 29-foot Mako Cuddy cabin carrying 20 passengers was reported missing. The most recent sighting was on December 28, 2020. Searches for the ship or passengers produced no results at all. No records of a distress signal were found. Aircraft and boat searches spanned 17,000 square miles, roughly twice the size of the state of Massachusetts, during the course of 84 hours, but without success. These are but a handful of instances. The Bermuda Triangle region has been the scene of scores of documented odd events. Regarding the Bermuda Triangle and its bizarre occurrences, people have developed a wide range of speculations, audacious hypotheses, and skeptic disclosures. Naturally, a great deal of research has been conducted in this area. Despite all of its mystique, the Triangle region is one of the most explored areas of the oceans, which may surprise you. However, it's not just due to the enigmatic disappearances of aircraft and ships. In order to investigate the Gulf Stream, the ocean's impact on weather, the seabed and its minerals, and the geological structure of the Earth's crust beneath the ocean floor, numerous expeditions were dispatched to the Bermuda Triangle region. From one point of view, those who believe that the Bermuda Triangle is a real death trap are correct. Indeed, this maritime region is incredibly intricate. A sophisticated system of sea currents, deep water depressions, and massive shoaliness, and complicated air circulation all coexist in this area. You'll discover all about it presently. Let's begin at the bottom of the ocean. This maritime region's bottom configuration has been well examined. Even what is located many kilometers below the seafloor is known. Numerous drilling and geophysical studies were conducted on the Florida Shelf in the Bahamas and Bermuda region. The Bermuda Triangle is home to a remarkable array of seabed landforms that are almost unique in the world. A continental slope, deep straits, abyssal plains, middle and marginal plateaus, a shelf with shallow banks, and deep sea tunnels are all present. In such a limited maritime area, this broad variety is extremely uncommon. Planimetry was done by researchers on a large-scale morphological map of the seabed and shown that the southern and northern halves of the Bermuda Triangle region might be arbitrarily separated. The Straits, the Bahama Banks, the Florida Shelf, and the Puerto Rico Deep Sea Trench are all part of the southern one. The morphology of the bottom appears highly striated in this area. Great ocean depths and straits alternate with extensive shoals. The triangle's northern region has a more consistent bottom topography and is more serene. An wide, deep-water plain emerges from the broad shelf. There are a few seamounts and a sizable Bermuda Plateau to its north and east. Seamounts? This is when things start to get interesting. Actually, the word mountain is too strong. However, The triangle's eastern and northern regions contain a number of seamount groupings. Most of them are unnamed, although some even have names. In actuality, their height is barely 150 to 200 meters. On the surface, these are hills rather than mountains. However, these are quite amazing formations for the seafloor. The morphology of these local little mountains is really odd, somewhat regular and conical. More common are lower cones that are fewer than 100 meters in height. They are known as underwater hills. When viewed from above, their elliptical or spherical shape is easily discernible. The 10 to 30-degree slopes are not very steep. The diameter of the foot might vary from a few kilometers to a few tens of kilometers. The regular contour of the seamounts and even slopes in this region is occasionally disrupted by multiple terraced steps. The mountains in the first instance resemble cones exactly. They resemble enormous plinths with multiple smaller cones on top in the second one. It's interesting to note that the Atlantic Ocean has a far smaller number of seamounts than the Pacific. In actuality, the Atlantic Ocean bed contains only roughly 600 unique seamounts, but the Pacific Ocean has about 10,000. Furthermore, the Pacific Ocean's more varied geology is the main point, not the Atlantic Ocean's lower size. However, there are also locations in the Atlantic with peculiar seafloor shapes. The fact that the Bermuda region has the most intriguing configurations may not be a coincidence. The tops of the tallest seamounts rising from the Bermuda Plateau are exactly the islands that gave the entire Bermuda Triangle its name. Some independently emerge from the ocean's bottom, and others create organizations. Because the mountains are coated in limestone layers, it is difficult to detect the basalt that originally produced the seamounts. One of the Bermuda Triangle's distinctive geological formations is the limestone platform that forms its base. These nearly 6-kilometer-deep limestone formations are made up of the remnants of extinct tiny animals. The planet's northernmost coral reefs are located in this ocean region, which adds to its interest. And the current state of nature has remained essentially unaltered for hundreds of millions of years. Generally speaking, scientists aren't even in agreement over Bermuda's exact genesis. An essay written by a sizable international team of geologists was published in the Nature journal in 2019. According to the Nature journal, extremely rare volcanic activity is what created Bermuda. Although this process of volcanic activity was not previously studied by scientists, it might have had a role in the genesis of certain other volcanic archipelagos in the world ocean. For many years, it was thought that the mantle plumes were responsible for the long-extinct ancient volcanoes that formerly lifted the Bermuda Islands from the Sargasso Sea's floor. In fact, there was a steady plume seen here. Conversely, such a plume might leave behind a distinctive chain of islands, like Hawaii. It appears as the crust slowly moves across a steady vertical magma flow. Additionally, there isn't any volcanic activity in the flow's affected area right now. In 1972, geologists performed a second examination of an 800-meter core from Bermuda to resolve these discrepancies. They found lead isotopes, a few other heavy elements, and a highly unique mineral makeup. The findings of the study led to a number of theories on Bermuda's genesis. The most likely explanation is that the matter pieces of old plates stored in the mantle transition zone were elevated and combined by the interruptions in magma flows. You'll be shocked once you comprehend all of this, even though it may appear confusing at first. Recall that the Pangaea supercontinent, which once held nearly all of the planet's land, separated some 175 million years ago, resulting in the formation of the whole Atlantic Ocean. An ocean formed when the plates that now make up Africa, Europe, and the Americas separated. At a depth of roughly 400 to 600 kilometers, a large number of plate fragments sank into the transition zone as they fell into the mantle beneath the ocean floor. Some of this semi-molten debris merged, mixed, and interacted with water some 30 million years ago due to instabilities in the mantle flow, which caused it to float high. Bermuda's unique geology could be produced by such a mechanism, although it could also be a few additional oceanic volcanic islands. Yes, tens of millions of years before it gained popularity, the Bermuda Triangle was a highly unique location. In the Bermuda Triangle, however, anything that rises above the water has an opposite. What's even more intriguing is that There is only the Puerto Rico Trench, after all. The Bermuda Triangle is home to the Milwaukee Deep, the deepest point in the Atlantic Ocean. The depth of the Puerto Rico Trench is currently 8,380 meters. Even deeper, according to other estimates. A coincidence, maybe? The coincidence seemed to be a bit too great. But there is also a lot of research on the Puerto Rico Trench. Actually, as much as is possible with current technology. A little steeper is the 8 to 10 degree slope nearer the island of Puerto Rico. With only 3 to 5 degrees, the ocean-facing slope is relatively mild. It is a medium-sized trench in Puerto Rico. There are 1,550 kilometers of it. This is in comparison to the Peru-Chile Trench, which is 5,900 kilometers long and the longest trench on Earth. With a maximum width of 120 kilometers, the Puerto Rico Trench is among the world's widest. The Marian Trench is twice as wide, for instance. 186,000 square meters make up the bottom of the Puerto Rico Trench. Science fiction authors frequently conjure up the idea that undiscovered animals and enigmatic forces lurk beneath the ocean's deepest regions. Such thoughts appear to be sparked by the Puerto Rico Trench, but there is nothing enigmatic or mystical at its core. In some locations, the only materials present are silts, volcanic ash, and layers of fine-grained sands. Holothurians, worms, sponges, and other living things are examples of special deep-sea species that reside in bottom sediments and above. In the water column, there are also, of course, deep-sea fish. After all, despite its extraordinary unusualness, there is still nothing wholly unexplained about the bottom of the Bermuda Triangle. Maybe its mere thickness may reveal something intriguing to us. The triangle bottom's construction appears to be unremarkable at first glance. Regular sedimentary rocks, including clays, sandstones, and limestones, are primarily found here. The thickness of this layer varies from 1 to 2 kilometers in the region of the Bermuda Plateau to 5 to 6 kilometers in the vicinity of the Bahama Banks. Sediment builds up at an average rate of about 6 millimeters per 150 years. That is, it's safe to say that little has changed in the Triangle seabed over the past 120 to 130 million years. But this is only at first glance. There's something in this area that haunts not only mystery seekers, but also quite famous researchers who are concerned about safe seafaring. We are literally talking about a time bomb, a real gas bomb we know almost nothing about, and where and when it will explode. Now this is where it gets really interesting. Scientists and amateurs are frantically attempting to strike a balance between audacious theories and a rigorous scientific method that rules out frauds in the hopes of explaining some of the odd ship disappearances. As a result, there aren't many daring theories. Among these is the eruption of deposits of methane hydrate, a unique type of natural gas. It has been established by science that there are sizable methane hydrate deposits on continental shelves. The only question is whether a ship could be sunk by the quickly unleashed masses of these substances. To find out, some extremely rigorous studies were conducted. For instance, a team of researchers from Australia ran a number of simulations. In fact, the outcomes were encouraging. Artificial gas eruptions easily sank smaller ship models used for experimentation. This resulted from a precipitous drop in water density. It has been hypothesized that sporadic methane disruptions could produce regions of frothy water that are insufficiently buoyant for vessels. The ship might suddenly and swiftly sink if such an area developed around it. As a result, there are no distress signals. They were just not able to be sent in time. The Gulf Stream would then swiftly sweep the material away and disperse it. The disappearances are therefore extremely difficult to track down. Large undersea hydrate reserves are described in U.S. Geological Survey publications worldwide, notably in the Blake Ridge region close to the southeast U.S. coast. Everything seems to fit together now. However, the same Geological Survey claims that throughout the last 15,000 years, there haven't been any significant gas hydrate emissions in the Bermuda Triangle zone. I do not wish to discuss conspiracies here. Furthermore, there are numerous credible answers that refute the enigmatic character of even the most well-known disappearances. Regardless of how overrated the Bermuda Triangle is, or how unbelievable its secrets are, it piques the interest of entire generations. And it is through the pursuit of mystery that people frequently uncover the true nature of phenomena that swiftly transform from fantastical ideas to undeniable facts.